Hey, this is Jedley. You know, for years, I struggled to get back to a healthy weight. I had been an athlete all throughout high school and college. And then when I got into the real world and had a job as a social worker, well, I got to tell you, I just forgot about exercise and I ate my way to a very, very unhealthy life. It would have been so much easier for me to get back to that healthy lifestyle that I loved in high school and college if I had a tool like Chronometer. We're really happy that the folks at Chronometer have decided to become sponsors and supporters of the Reading With Your Kids podcast. And you can find out all about their great product at our website, readingwithyourkids.com/fitness. readingwithyourkids.com/fitness. I mean, this is a great, great tool. It's a really great tool. It helps, not only does it help you track your calories and help you track your exercise, but it also helps you track your nutrition. You know, you're just going on a diet and reducing calories. It's not the right way to go. You need to make sure that you're still having the right amounts of nutrients and proteins and the mix and all that kind of stuff. That's why Chronometer is so very useful. It's really easy to use. It helps you track 60-plus nutrients for 200,000-plus foods. And like I said, it lets you log your diet, your exercise, your biometrics. You put notes in there. It helps you make custom foods and recipes. It even has a mobile app so you can log on the go. You can check it all out and also check it out for free at our website, readingwithyourkids.com/fitness.
Reading with your kids.
Hey, my name is Jedley and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, and iTunes #1 kids and family podcast. And this is STEM Week, a week dedicated to giving you all sorts of great information and ideas to help your kids learn to love science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Today we talk about one of my favorite subjects in the world, elephants, with our guest Patricia Newman, the author of Eavesdropping on Elephants. I'm so very, very excited. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite creatures in the world with our guest today. She's coming to us from Sacramento in California. The name of her book is Eavesdropping on Elephants. Please welcome to the show Patricia Newman. Patricia, how are you?
I am great, and thank you for having me, Jed.
I'm so excited. We were just talking, Patricia and I were just talking a little bit. I love elephants. They are such amazing creatures, and I know very little about them. I'm understanding that, but just the experiences that I've had with them and the little bit that I know of them, they just seem like this magnificent creature.
They really are. Not only, I mean, there are lots of elephant lovers out there in the world, and I'm addressing this comment specifically to them. This book is about elephants. What more do you need to know?
There you go.
But for those of you who aren't yet convinced, elephants, they're huge. They have a trunk. How cool is that? Mm-hmm. Many of them have tusks, which are unfortunately prized by the black market. They travel in family groups. And I was telling Jed before the start of our podcast here, they communicate using infrasound, which is sound too low for humans to hear. And that's one of the things that I talk about in my book, because the scientists in Eavesdropping on Elephants are studying the sounds that elephants make.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I guess, an important place to start, because Eavesdropping on Elephants is a nonfiction book. And
correct.
So it's got lots and lots of great information about elephants and how scientists discovered ways to help the elephants by listening to them.
Correct. Exactly right.
Yeah.
And it all started because Katie Payne, who was the main researcher at the time, felt this vibration around her when she was studying elephants. Katie came from a background of studying whale sounds, and she and her husband actually discovered that whales compose and sing songs for each other. So Katie went from the largest marine mammal to the largest land mammal. And through a lot of experimentation, discovered that, or actually proved, because researchers had suspected for a long time, but Katie actually proved that elephants do communicate using infrasound. And in my book, I describe exactly how she did that, but then she hooked up with another researcher in Central Africa, the Central African Republic, who had been observing forest elephants for a very long time, almost 20 years. And the cool thing about this book is we talk about forest elephants and eavesdropping on elephants, and most people don't know about forest elephants. We know a lot about savanna elephants. Those are the elephants that roam the plains. You see the documentaries about them. We see a lot about savanna elephants. But forest elephants are relatively unknown, primarily because they hide in the forest.
And that's an incredible thought of an elephant hiding anywhere. How in the world could something so large hide?
Exactly. How could something so large hide? But they do it, and they do it very well. So that's why Katie hooked up with this other researcher named Andrea Turcalo. Andrea had been studying forest elephants for 20 years, as I said, in the Central African Republic. And she had detailed observations and longitudinal observations. So she had followed more than 4,000 elephants over time. She named them all. She created index cards for them all. She knew their family groups. So what happened is Katie and Andrea got together and they started recording elephants. They put acoustic recorders first on the ground, and then they realized that wasn't a good idea because elephants are very curious. And then they put them in trees, and they started recording sounds. And they took these recordings, and they took Andrea's observations, and they matched them up. So what were the elephants doing when they were making these sounds? And by creating this baseline archive, if you will, the scientists will be able to figure out what the sounds mean in the forest when you can't see them. Wow. So that is key.
That's wild. Now, this just mind-boggling and really exciting too when we're talking about and here I am at an old man. And I'm getting excited about this. Imagine how excited our kids could be as we're sitting down and we're talking to them and reading Eavesdropping on Elephants with them and talking about the discoveries that are happening today and the knowledge we're gathering today. And I'm just thinking, wow, scientists seem to be on the verge of being able to figure out what elephants are saying to each other.
Exactly. So, and the ramifications of that are, if we can record them in the forest and figure out what they're saying without seeing them, without disturbing them, we can figure out what parts of the forest they're using, and we can figure out how to keep them safe. Mm-hmm. And the Elephant Listening Project is continually stepping up its operation. They just partnered with, I just found this out, they just partnered with an alum. The Elephant Listening Project is housed at Cornell University. Mm-hmm. It's part of the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, which is the famous bird center. And if you're kind of scratching your head as to why elephants and birds go together, everybody does, don't worry. It's because birds are often studied by listening to them. So it's this acoustic study, this acoustic method of studying that links them together. Mm-hmm. But anyway, at Cornell University, there's an alum who just created an artificial intelligence kind of program that enables the Elephant Listening Project to have computers listen to the elephant sounds and code which sounds are elephants and which sounds are not elephants. Whereas before, human beings were having to do that, and you can imagine how long cataloging 60,000 hours of acoustic recordings would take a human being, right? So if we can figure out how the elephants are using the forest, park managers can deploy anti-poaching details more efficiently, so we can help save them.
Wow, fascinating. No, one thing that struck me, and we've had a number of scientists and science writers and science educators on, and one of the things that we've heard a lot is that we need to motivate young girls to get involved in STEM and to develop a love of science and technology and engineering, mathematics. Now, you were talking about the two main researchers, Katie and Andrea, and I've heard of Jane Goodall. Is it unusual for women to kind of be at the forefront of this kind of animal research, or is this someplace where women have been involved in STEM for a while?
Women have been involved in elephant studies for a long while. Joyce Poole and Cynthia Moss are both famous elephant researchers and are sort of contemporaries of Katie Payne's. But STEM is cool whether you're a girl or a boy. Oh. And what I'm hoping that I can do in Eavesdropping on Elephants and my other STEM titles that feature different scientists, I want to try to empower kids. And the way that I do that is talking about what interested these scientists as kids, talking about what these scientists need to move forward. For instance, the technology is always evolving, right? So what do these scientists need to move forward to be even more effective in saving elephants? So as kids read these things, what I want them to do is say, oh, well, I used to skip school for Earth Day, like Chelsea and Plastic Ahoy, which is one of my first STEM books, or about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, or I really like tech stuff, and maybe I can help the Elephant Listening Project create a brand new listening device that doesn't require that they trek through miles of dense forest and climb trees to put the recorders in the trees. So what I'm hoping is that I can excite kids and empower them to think of themselves as people who can carry this kind of work forward.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. There's so many questions running through my head right now. It's just because this is so...
That's good.
Yeah, it is. And I'm loving this because I'm imagining a family sitting down together, and I'm wondering, just off the top of your head, are there ways that kids... Because I know one thing, my kids would read something, they get really excited, and they'd think, what can we do now? And are there ways for kids to kind of act now after reading your book to maybe work to, help to save the elephants and bring awareness of what's going on with elephants?
Yes. And I talk about that in my book, actually. In fact, there's I profile one young girl in Vermont whose name is Tegan Yardley, and she did just that. She's actually created a couple of different videos to save elephants, and she's appeared before the legislature in Vermont, and she's gone to Washington, D.C. to speak to a number of conservation leaders, and it all started with raising awareness in her hometown by conducting an annual global march for elephants. So raising awareness is the most particular thing that kids can do. Also, any legislation that comes down the pike about overturning the ivory ban. Poaching is the single biggest thing that kills elephants. And if we can stop the poaching or reduce it to a trickle even, elephants will have a chance. Their birth rates will go up. They'll be able to actually raise their babies and stay alive long enough to develop full family groups. They're extremely social animals, and they really rely on these family groups for survival. Another thing that kids and parents can do when they sit down and read this book together is that in the book I have 4 or 5 different elephant stories. Remember how I told you that Katie and Andrea combined the listening with the observation so they could match the behaviors, right? Well, in this early research, I have 4 or 5 sections in the book where I tell one of the stories. I tell the story of a birth, for instance. And there's, of course, a photograph of the little baby right after it's born. But these 4 or 5 sections also have QR codes. So if parents and kids scan their use their devices to scan the QR code, they'll immediately go to a site that allows them to watch video of that exact story happening. So they can not only see it happen, but they can hear the sounds that the elephants are making. Because it's extraordinarily difficult to write a book about sound when you can't hear it, right?
Mm-hmm. And what a beautiful time we're living in where, it's, I remember, reading on the papyrus at my school. And,
the scroll. You had to unroll the scroll, right?
And, and so we'd read and try to imagine the stories. Now we can actually we take this little thing out of our pocket and scan and actually hear the sounds. And that's thrilling. I mean, my wife and I just came back from a trip down to Panama, and we're out on the river that feeds the canal, and we came across some howler monkeys. In the wild, and wow, they earn their name. They're loud. that sound that they make is terrifying.
It is. Well, there's another aspect to these videos with these QR codes is that the kids are as close as they could possibly be to seeing the animals in the wild without going to Africa. So, and seeing an animal like this in the wild is the most amazing thing that could really ever happen to you. It's really indescribable how powerful that feeling is. And I was trying to bring that feeling as close to the reading experience as I possibly could.
Yeah, well, it is a beautiful, and you're absolutely right. Experiencing an animal in the wild is, well, like I just said, we just experienced it, and we experienced crocodiles swimming alongside our boat, which was kind of
exactly.
It's so much different than seeing it at the zoo.
It is.
So this is great. Well, I'm so excited. One question I had, and there may not be an answer to it. You were talking about the forest elephants using this sound, I'm sorry, what did you call it again?
Infrasound.
Infrasound. Now, do the plain elephants also use that sound? And are we aware of if the language is the same or if it's different?
Well, that's interesting. Savanna elephants do use infrasound. They use it for like a long-distance calling mechanism. Okay. They communicate long distance. And one of the ways that forest elephants use infrasound is to call each other, but the forest, it blocks some of that sound from traveling as far as it would on the savanna. You can imagine the savanna is a wide open space, right? And it's very sandy. There's some vegetation, not a whole lot of vegetation. It's mostly grasses and trees here and there. In the forest, it's nothing but vegetation. So the scientists say that the sound attenuates, or meaning that the sound, sort of gets all blocked and bouncing off all these other things that it comes up against. So what they're finding is it doesn't travel as far, but they don't quite know what that means yet. Does that mean that elephants don't use it? Unlikely, because one of the stories I have in Eavesdropping on Elephants is about a baby that died. And over the scientists watched the procession of elephants pay their respects to this baby over the course of 2 days, and hundreds of elephants came by. Now, were they calling and letting nearby elephants know that there was a death and you had to come and say goodbye? Maybe, because how else would they find out, right? And maybe it's more like there's a cutoff man in the forest. You know, the sound goes to this one nearby elephant who then sends the same message to another elephant who sends the same message to another elephant. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Nobody really knows the answer to that question yet. Wow. But all elephants do communicate using infrasound. Asian and then the two species of African elephants, savanna and forest elephants. Wow. And I've lost the last part of your question. I'm sorry.
No, I was just wondering if the language if the language was the same.
Oh, well, that they don't know yet. One of the things I talk about in my book is that scientists need to figure out, and the Elephant Listening Project is working on this, they need to figure out what the combinations of calls means. Mm-hmm. I was astounded to find out how many different kinds of sounds elephants make. We all have heard them trumpet before, but they rumble and they roar and they auga, and they do all of these different things, and their roars, be sure to use the QR codes in Eavesdropping on Elephants, or watch the trailer. You'll hear lots of roars in my book trailer. They're fascinating, and what scientists don't know is, does a roar by itself mean something different than a roar followed by a rumble? And is a rumble followed by a roar even different than the other two combinations? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to figure that out, and I don't even think and this is all with the forest elephants, I don't even think they've begun to do the savanna elephant dialect and the Asian elephant dialect yet. Wow. So there's a long way to go. So the kids who are interested in elephants out there, you have got to get on the bandwagon and help the study of elephants, because there's a long way to go.
Yeah, and that's so exciting that that we have all this knowledge right now, but there's so much more that we can learn. And,
yes.
And one of the things I love about books like Eavesdropping on the Elephants is that I think it really sparks our curiosity. And I think if our kids can see us become excited about learning, then they understand that learning isn't just something that we do at school. And it's a great way for them to become lifelong learners. I was looking at all these different mission statements from schools, and it's like, we're going to help our kids become lifelong learners, and that's great. But we are, as parents, we are our kids' first and most important teachers. And if we, as adults who are out of school, exhibit that interest and love of learning, our kids are going to pick up on it.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And when I write a book like this, Eavesdropping on Elephants or Sea Otter Heroes or Zoo Scientists to the Rescue, any of those books, if I have answered every single question, I feel like I've failed. What my goal is to give readers enough of the story, but with the wherewithal and the curiosity to ask, what's next? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, what happens next? What are all these questions? How do I get these questions answered? Right. So that's what I'm trying to do in these kinds of books.
Wow. It's exciting. Now, I know we touched on, you alluded to a couple of your books, but I want you to come back so we can talk about those on another time, because I'm just so into animals and science of animals, but I do want folks to be able to go and connect with you online. So where are the best places for them to connect with you?
Well, my website is probably the best place. There's probably more about me than anybody would ever want to know on my website. That's patriciamnewman.com. Don't forget the middle initial M, patriciamnewman.com. And you'll find trailers to my books. Teachers will find teacher guides, lesson plans. There's a blog there. I frequently solicit kids to write for me. If a kid wants to write about a particular animal or a particular topic I've written about, I am happy to post that blog. And again, there's more about me than you would ever want to know.
That is so cool. Imagine your kids you're reading Patricia's book, Eavesdropping on the Elephants, writing a blog, and having her publish it on her website. Whoa, you kids, talk about their mind getting blasted. It would just be amazing.
Exactly.
Well, my mind has been blasted tonight. I've had such a great time speaking to the author of Eavesdropping on Elephants and the driving force behind PatriciaNewman.com. Patricia, thanks so much for being on the show, and I look forward to your return.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We have a wonderful guest. Our friend Pamela C. Rice is going to be back to talk to us about her brand new book, Whistle Watch at Uncle Willie's House. Whistle Watch at Uncle Willie's House. Hey, if you are an author of a great children's book, whether it's a picture book, a chapter book, a STEM-related book, a young adult title, we would love to have you on as a guest here on the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, and it is absolutely free. All you need to do is to go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the contact button, let us know all about your great book. We will let you know the next step. Hey, we want to thank Patricia Newman for being here today, helping us round up our STEM week. Even though STEM week is over here in September of 2018, we are dedicated to bringing you all sorts of great ideas to help you and your kids just fall in love with STEM. STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Our lives are surrounded by those subjects all of the time, and we need to help our kids feel comfortable with those subjects. So we're going to be having Patricia back, and of course we have a regular feature with Jennifer Swanson, and we're going to have our friend Heather Montgomery back, and we're going to have all sorts of great authors back to talk about STEM. Hey, we also want to thank you. Thank you for being here today, and thank you so much for taking the time to read with your kids. I'll be looking for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Hey, for all the authors that are listening out there, I wanted to share with you this great email that we received here at the Reading with Your Kids podcast from Dr. Linda Mubarak. She is a past guest and the author of Maxine's New Job. Here's the email. Dear Fatima and Jed, good news! Maxine's New Job has been nominated to receive the prestigious Henri Award at the 2018 Christian Literacy Awards for Outstanding Literacy Work in the Children's Book Division. I sincerely believe your certifying Maxine as a great read helped bring increased social media attention to the book. Thank you for the exposure and the great marketing. We are so happy for Dr. Linda Mubarak that her book, Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read, Maxine's New Job, received this prestigious recognition. We would love to help your book receive that same kind of recognition. If you are interested in having your book considered for our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program, please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. You can click on the contact button, send us a note, and we'll send all the information back to you, or you can go right to our Certified Great Read page on our website. It's fun, it's easy, and it is really an effective way to let the world know that your book stands out above all the rest. The Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program.